tight tuck. Good evening, everybody. Now, can you hear me? We probably should have almost got a microphone or something. I'll try and shout. I haven't got a very loud voice, but I'll do my best, so just yell out if you can't hear. My name's Ruth McIntyre, and I own this fun bookshop. And it's our pleasure tonight, on behalf of Lucy, Brianna, Ruby and Kate, who are over there serving and pouring drinks, to welcome you all to the book launch of Eirlys's new novel for children, The Mapmakers Race. Eirlys's books for children started to be published not long after our bookshop began in 1992. I think hers were about another 2 or 3 years later. And the first one, The Robber and the Millionaire, came out in 1996 and was a finalist in the AIM Children's Book Awards the following year. So she sort of was off to a cracking start really. Being a finalist with your first book is a pretty amazing achievement. The Quake was published in 1999, and my son Sam, who is now almost 32, loved it. It was I loved it. A really exciting read, all about an earthquake and being caught up in it, and it was so dramatic. The Finn's Quest series, the fantasy trilogy about a boy's adventure within a computer game, emerged in the early 2000s and was an extremely popular series, I must say. Unfortunately, has been out of print for several years, but they are still available to borrow at the library. I believe Lucy checked on that one for me. And since then, Eirlys has been busy writing novels and short stories for adults and teaching other authors how to write for children. So for us in the children's literature world, it's been a long time between drinks. But boy, The Mapmakers Race is really worth the wait. I loved it. It's just a great adventure. It's a fantastic family read. Anyone from sort of age 7 to 100 will enjoy it. It's in that traditional classic style. But it's also a little bit wacky races. If anyone here is old enough like me to remember that TV program. And there's plenty of lovely humorous moments. It's a great family readout, as I mentioned, so it will be ideal as a Christmas present. And I can just see people sitting around, the campfire in the camping ground after Christmas, reading a chapter or two each night. After all the speeches tonight, we'll get Eirlys to sit at a table and she will sign copies for you. Now, just a couple of little housekeeping points. We have toilets at the end of the block, and there is a key, obviously, to them. So just we'll keep it probably on the drinks table there, so if you need it, just nip around there. The running order from now on is Rachel Lawson from Depot Press is going to speak next. Then Roger Smith from Geographics is going to launch the book. Then Eirlys will talk a little bit about, hopefully a lot about it, and give us maybe a little reading and give us the genesis of it. And then finally Julia Marshall of Depot Press will just say goodbye. We'll say goodbye and make 1 or 2 comments. So that's about all from me. Enjoy yourself. There's lots of wine and there's still some food, so eat up and drink up and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. It's just Depot Press is so pleased to be here, and you can see that Julia and I have put our jackets and badges on to show you that it's a very important occasion for us. This book has just been a pleasure from beginning to end, and I can still remember the day that Julia came into the office and said she hadn't done something quite important that she was supposed to do last night because she was far too interested in finding out what happened next in this amazing manuscript that Eirlys Hunter had submitted. So I kind of leapt into reading it, and it led to one of those rare and fantastic moments in the publishing office, and we both looked at each other over the desk and said, "It's really good." and we love the book, we love the manuscript, and we love the book it's become. The Mapmakers Race is exactly the kind of book that I loved as a child, and I think all of us here gobbled up as children, and the children here I hope will be gobbling up soon. it feels like a classic, as Ruth said. It could be one of those 1970s puffins with, edited by Kay Webb on the imprint page. But that's not to say it belongs in the 70s. It's absolutely contemporary. It's just got this fantastic timeless quality. It has all those important things of an adventure with the resourceful children and the irritating adults that sort of get in the way but get their comeuppance. But for me, the thing that I especially love is the balance of kind of magicalness and ordinariness. And so they're just absolutely everyday children in this book, but each of them sort of has a superpower as well. Some are more super than others, so Francie can kind of fly, and Sal is just really, really good at maths. Somehow they're kind of equivalent. And it's the same with the world of the book, which has all these amazing steampunky sort of fantastic contraptions, but it's also absolutely, for me, the New Zealand bush. Despite the wolves and the bears, it's the New Zealand bush. So I think Eirlys might have sort of invented a new Kiwi genre of the tramping adventure or something. So being a book about tramping, you need a good map. And I would love tonight to also be a celebration and acknowledgement of Kirsten Slade, who is our map maker. Kirsten came to us sort of by serendipity when she did an illustrator workshop for our Curiously Good Book Club last year, and we loved her ideas for the book, and we loved her maps, and she's fantastic to work with. I hope it's maybe the first or the second of many, many books with her name attached to them. So thank you, Kirsten. Thank you also to everyone who worked on this book, and it was lovely to see Jude Watson, editor here, and Katrina Duncan's design. Thanks for everything to Eirlys. It's a cracking good book, and we've loved working on it. And also just a little mention of the advanced readers and booksellers and reviewers who've already started talking about the book and given it such a wonderful start in the world. I think it feels pretty good. So I'm really pleased to introduce a real-life map maker to launch Mapmakers Race. Roger Smith is the founder of Geographics, a map design company, and I think, as well as being a cartographer, he's an adventurer and an outdoorsman and maybe a bit of an explorer, so I think he's doubly appropriate to launch the book. Did I make that up, or is it sort of a little bit true? It's true, isn't it? Let's walk towards it. Welcome, Roger Smith.
Thank you for that. I was actually away in Croatia when this came up, and I really had no idea what it was all about until I got back and had a chance to read this gorgeous book. And I have to say I'm absolutely delighted to come along here and vouch for it and to launch for it. I just think it's a wonderful read. And I'm slightly outside the age group too. Oh, really? One of the nice things about being a map maker is the number of people you meet who own up to being passionately in love with maps. And it tends to start really young, and it never dies. It just goes on forever. And I must admit, I'm probably a little bit biased, but I find it very easy to see why people like maps so much. As a child, I can remember poring over them. And for me, it was a kind of window from my familiar little territory into this big unknown world and the promise of exotic places and all these future adventures. I never got over it. I never threw away a map in my life. And this fellow Peter Steinhardt, an American naturalist and writer, who kind of summed it up in one line for me. And I quote, "Maps are a way of organising wonder." And I really like that. So it's little wonder that I, as a map maker, was intrigued to hear about this book of Eirlys, The Mapmakers Race. As I said, I've read it. I think it's a splendid read. The setting is yesteryear, a time when there were, if we're on the small places to explore, also a time where people didn't have the availability of all today's modern whiz-bang technology. And I think that is one of the things that gives it this timeless quality that was referred to. I so much agree. One of the reasons I personally love this book is that it emphasised values that I hold dear. Individual values such as determination, independence, responsibility, resilience, but also family values such as caring and compassion and sharing and learning to be part of a team, working as a team. If my own children were younger, or if my grandchildren were older, I would buy them all a copy without question. In reading it, I feel I actually got to know the Sandcamber family quite well, and in particular, I empathised with Francie, who was the map drawer in the book. I can't give away too much, obviously. But as you heard, she has a special gift, this ability to see things sort of from above, all without actually her feet leaving the ground. And it enabled Francie to sort of see the big picture and work out how everything around her fitted together. And I thought that was a marvellous analogy, and it appealed to me especially because although I don't have the skills that Francie has, in a previous career I was a commercial pilot, and I think the one thing that probably differentiates me from most other people who make maps is that there was enormous value to me in being able to see everything from above. I flew over New Zealand extensively for some years at low level, and was a huge asset to my subsequent map making career, which incidentally will be my last career. I also thought the illustrations are fabulous. Well done, Kirsten. I thought they just fit in the bill perfectly. I hope I'm right in saying this. When I was reading the Mapmakers Race, I couldn't help think of a passage in another children's book I really enjoyed, Roald Dahl's The Big Friendly Giant. And I hope you'll forgive me if I just repeat it here. I don't want to get off the topic of the right book here, but for me, I kept thinking of this the whole way through. This place we're flying, these guys are in an aeroplane, right? This place we're flying over now isn't in the Atlas, is it? The pilot said, grinning. You're darn right it isn't in the Atlas, cried the head of the Air Force. We've flown clear off the last page. He turned the page. As in all atlases, there were 2 completely blank pages at the very end. So now we must be somewhere here, he said, putting a finger on one of the blank pages. Where's here? Cried the head of the army. The young pilot was still grinning broadly. He said to them, they always put 2 blank pages at the back of the atlas. They're for you countries. You're meant to fill them in for yourself. And I always like that. I just kind of amazing. Anyway, I do want to congratulate Eirlys on her wonderful book, and also Gecko Press for publishing this. I think it's marvellous. You've all done us a huge favour, and I seriously encourage all of you to go out and buy it. I think we have to do this at the first opportunity. I think at this point I'm supposed to launch the book. Do we have a bottle of champagne? Or a ribbon or a pair of scissors? Here we go. So, I probably wouldn't win too many friends if I smashed that. But, so I guess all I can formally do is say the book is hereby launched. And may it be
that was lovely. Oh, I must remember that. What the 2 blank pages are for. Yeah, absolutely. We can all draw our own maps. Like you, I've been obsessed with maps since, probably since I opened my copy of Winnie the Pooh when I was about 4, and couldn't really get beyond the frontispiece. What's the frontispiece? No.
100 Acre Wood.
Yeah, the end papers, just of the 100 Acre Wood, and then all the other books that had maps in, which always had pride of place on my bookcase. Well, it's very, very kind of you to launch this today. I've never actually met a real map maker before, despite being so obsessed with maps, and it's a little bit daunting because, obviously the real life map making is extremely technical, and this is well, it's not just simplified in the book, it's completely invented. Yeah, you won't get anywhere if you try then. It's really it's amazing to see so many people here today. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. I especially want to, I'm going to have quite a few thanks. I want to thank all my friends who talk books with me. You know who you are. And my fellow writers. This book's been so long in the cooking pot that I'm embarrassed to say that I've actually forgotten who exactly read an earlier draft of it and gave me helpful comments. And you know, but I do know I paid attention to what you said. And so my grateful thanks. And thanks to my family. Reading was the central occupation of my childhood and passion. And I'm lucky enough to have had 4 children who loved being read to, and so they gave me another 20-something years of reading aloud. And thank you to Grace and Doug and Bramwell and Alma for sharing your books with me for all that time. And now Doug and Rachel have got the next generation, Madam. Adetta, which is fantastic to be reading stories, having some small people to read stories to again. And thank you to my dear Lawrence, without whose supportive nagging I probably wouldn't ever have sent off the manuscript. And then I want especially to thank Gecko. What a privilege to be published by a press that believes in bringing beautiful books into the world. It's been an extraordinary experience to work with this marvellous team of women. Julia, whose vision and stamina created Gecko, and who took a punt on this book. Rachel, who stands alongside Julia and helps make the vision a reality. And Faustine, there she is, who is publicist extraordinaire. And Francis and Lucy in the office, and yeah. And also, I want to say thanks to Katrina Duncan for the design, and Jude Watson, who is here with Jude. There you are. Who I haven't seen for a long time, but we had a lot of emails flying back and forth to Nelson when she was editing it. And then Kirsten, come take a bow. Come and stand over here for a minute. What a brilliant job. Yeah, fantastic. And last but not least, I want to thank the Children's Bookshop. Gecko and the Children's Bookshop are 2 of the great establishments that make Wellington such a fantastic place to live in. It really, your existence nourishes us as readers and as writers and as lovers of books. So Ruth and Lucy and Sasha and all the team, thank you very much for having us. And I'll read a very short snippet. Kate DeGoldie, who's also here, reviewed this book on Saturday, gave it the kind of review which every writer dreams of, and I'm still kind of floating. And she mentioned the importance of getting rid of the chill appearance in books, so I thought I'd read from the very beginning of the book. So you see, the children already lost their father, this is how they lose their mother. It really wasn't Joe's fault. Mark told him to be helpful. So when the train pulled into a station, he grabbed the empty flask and asked a man in railway uniform how long the train would stop for and was there a tap.